So I wanted to talk about some of the things I look for when I'm deciding whether I like a piece of jewelry enough to buy it, because I purchase a lot of like vintage pieces and a lot of pieces that are online, and so I don't get to necessarily try them on in a physical location before I get them. But I've been doing this for a long time, so I've really learned like quite a lot about what to look for in terms of pieces that will really be a good fit for me in the long term. So number one is I don't really have a strong sense of style when it comes to jewelry, but there are some things I look for that I know are really important for me to enjoy wearing a piece long term, and that is comfort and durability. And so from a comfort perspective, there's a couple things I think about. One, I don't want it to ever cause me any pain, ever. That's kind of like basic one, but you'd be surprised like how many pieces of jewelry are painful to wear. Particularly like earrings can kind of like pinch your ears or pull on your ears, or you can have bracelets or necklaces that like pinch the little baby hairs on the back of your neck or on your wrist. You can have pieces of jewelry that give you allergic reactions. Like I'm not about any of that. I'm 31 and I no longer think that beauty has to equal pain. So I want to be comfortable at all times. I also don't, in the durability category, I don't want to be worried that I'm going to lose it at any time. So I'm looking for a secure clasp. I'm looking for a piece that I feel confident is not going to break off of me in any way. And so, from a comfort perspective, there's a couple things that I can tell you concretely. One of them is I personally have pretty severe allergies to many things, but nickel and other metals being one of them. So for me, I tend to wear mainly fine jewelry or jewelry that has like very thick coating of gold, because gold is something I personally don't have an allergy to. And so that makes it something I can wear safely without a reaction. However, what I will say is sometimes if there's a piece of jewelry that traps moisture against my skin, and this happens in earrings sometimes, this happens in like rings that are quite wide, particularly like a centimeter wide or more. Those rings can trap like soap or water against my skin and create like little rashes or eczema or other things underneath. So I don't like that. That's uncomfortable. That falls into the category of something I would consider uncomfortable. So I tend to go for rings that have thinner bands or have spaces underneath where air can get in and kind of like create breathability. I also tend to look for pieces. I'm wearing one right now that is a no from me, but I love the piece so much that I put up with it. This one, it has many things right. For example, the durability has going really well with these bezel set. Comfort is like almost there because these beautiful bezel settings, they don't get caught in my hair. The clasp is perfect. It's amazing. The one downside, and I say this because it's one of those things that's really hard to tell online, but it's got these vertical pieces that are right next to each other. And until you're wearing it, you don't think like these vertical pieces that are right next to each other are going to almost be like 50 little tweezers against my skin. As the bracelet like moves back and forth, it creates this little tweezing action between those little vertical edges of the bezel settings. And so that can create little tiny pinches of your skin and of any little baby hairs on your wrist. So I look for any type of like vertical pieces that are close together, either on, especially on the back of the piece of jewelry, but even on the front, if there's a risk the jewelry might flip over. That's something I would advise to look for online. An example, so on this side, I have very similar tennis bracelets that do not exhibit this problem. So the circle one, it doesn't have this problem because the circles cannot trap little bits of skin or hair between them. And then the one underneath, it's this like variation of shapes. And so that also doesn't create a tweezing action because there's no like prolonged contact between the edges of the piece. So that's one thing. Let's see. Yeah, so from a durability perspective, we talked about bezel setting. I think I also look for things that I feel confident will withstand daily wear and tear. So you notice like my bands are thinner than a centimeter, but they are not thin, right? Like I don't have any bands that are like 1 millimeter. I have bands that are like 2+ millimeters for the most part. And any bands that I have that are like particularly thin, I will stack them with other bands because it just creates a bit of strength in numbers and it keeps them more durable. For chains or necklaces, something I look for is I like the clasp to be good. I want to be very confident in the clasp. So for me, that means, like, for example, let me take off some of these and show you. One sec. Okay, so this is my curb chain. It's graduated, so it gets like thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top. This is great for comfortability because one of the things that is challenging about like wearing thicker necklaces is if they, again, trap like sweat or moisture or anything against your skin, it can create allergic reaction. But I took it off originally to show the clasp. So this clasp is like a little tube almost, and then you basically just insert the other end, and it has this little safety latch that goes over it. So I will put it back together off camera, and then I'll kind of show you what it looks like. So this is one type of secure clasping mechanism, because especially from the safety latch. Other types of secure latching mechanisms I like, especially if it's like a lightweight chain. I love a lobster clasp. Okay, so there's this one. It's basically you slide it together and then that little latch goes over the nub. This one here is it's my ball chain, and it just has a lobster clasp there. That feels pretty secure to me. I've also seen a lot of vintage. I have some vintage chains, which I'll show you probably in another video, that have almost like two U-shaped pieces going both directions, and you can open it apart and then the U-shaped pieces like overlap. And that is extremely secure, because even if the pieces open up, they still have the U shape to keep them in place, which is one thing I love about the lobster clasp. It keeps that U shape, which if there's any type of like downward pulling or tension, even if the clasp were to open for whatever reason, it will stay likely together because of the tension. So yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. Those are some of my thoughts on how to pick jewelry and things to look for. Yeah, maybe one last thing as I'm sort of like playing with these chains. One thing I notice I go for is heavier weight things, which unfortunately can make them more pricey if you go for solid gold pieces. But the heavier weight pieces have the benefit of being obviously constructed with structural integrity, and hopefully. And so that is something that I tend to look for, because you can see oftentimes online if the links are solid metal, or if they're hollow, if the piece is as heavy as you would expect it to be, that kind of thing. That's something that I look for as well, to try to look for quality pieces. So yeah. All right, good night.